it's on the fish violation. It's going to be more side and
I the button. There we go. Now we're starting.
And we're back. This is The World Exposed with Reverend Aaron Betts, Reverend Brett Connell, Reverend Alan Farkas, Reverend Christopher Gore. We are excited to bring you tonight's message, words, hope, but truth. Get yourself prepared. This is going to be a wild, wild ride.
What's up, guys?
Hey
there.
Welcome back. We have made it to 7 full episodes. I'm so proud. I'm so proud. You guys are you're the best. What are we gonna do?
I think I've only made it for 4.
4? Oh my God, Alan.
That's the story. Al's back in the house.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, let's say Chris said we're getting the band back together.
Yeah. And we just recorded that song, so
Right.
You had a great solo on that thing, Al.
Mm-hmm.
Ripping it, man. And on I couldn't help but notice, but on Brett's picture, you had such a serious look on your face. That was probably a power scripture you were reading when you were preaching up there, Brett. It was
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh wow, nice.
It was probably one of those sovereignty of God scriptures that around us as well.
I'm sort of getting used to the mountain man business there going on with Mr. Brett.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
Well,
me
thank
too.
you. Yeah.
It's getting into the prophet stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got your camel hair, locust, and honey out.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I got my beard oil.
Oh, the holy beard oil.
Yeah.
Before it's
there you
all
go.
said and done, we'll probably all look like that.
Yeah. Right.
That's what we're after, man.
That's
Yeah.
right. Well, we want to welcome everybody on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, and all points in between. We are so excited to be back tonight, and we're going to do a part 2, maybe on Woker. We'll see where this goes because anything can happen on The World Exposed.
That's right. There's a
Very,
lot.
very good.
There's so much to get to, man, and like we bring up, God has opened our eyes, and He's opening more and more people's eyes to the reality of life. And hopefully all this stuff leads people to Him, right? That's the answer. This stuff it could get depressing. It's pretty brutal. It could really anger you. But there's a solution in the whole thing. And there's a perspective that the evil is just being exposed. And what are you going to do with it type deal,
That's right.
And our way to deal with it is to ultimately get the evil out of our own life, right? So that we can be a light and be effective for change, which is just being another vessel that God can pour into and use and help people through. That's the big deal. But we're getting woker here. Is that a good thing?
Oh no,
I'm not raising my hand to being woker. I don't want to have anything to do with the word or what it what it means.
We're becoming more
listen,
aware.
that term was used a long time ago. Leadbelly wrote a song a long time ago. I think it was called Scarborough Man, about staying woke, speaking to the black people, stay woke. They've changed the meaning. They changed the meaning of everything. That's not a new term, but you know,
Give
they've
us some
taken it and
history, Alan.
twisted it all around.
Give
They
us some
love it.
history.
Yeah. Well, it's just one thing that got shaken loose from my mind, you know.
Right.
So for those of us who are new tonight to wokeism, what did we define it as last week when we talked?
Well, Brett had pretty much the perfect definition, just nailing it. Do you remember that, Brett, or we'll just riff on this?
No, I don't. But
Okay. Right.
I'll try again here. Roll my dice. Yeah, woke was. You know what? Let me make sure I tell you correctly, and I will pull up exactly where I got it from last time. Don't want any misinformation or false news here.
Nope.
But you know it
So-
when you see it.
Yeah, it's
That-
woke means the term became popularized initially when to mean that an individual has become more aware of different social injustices.
Yeah.
To that extent, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like that, and a big part of it is, you're waking up to the plight of, or you're waking up to the evil nature of America, really is what it's all about. But, waking up, like before woke came on the scene, and we wake up from the reality of, kind of just being I use this term loosely, but a sheep just participating, right? When you wake up to the fact that, all right, wow, civilization has kind of been controlled for a while. Wow, there's people behind the scenes pulling the strings.
You think?
Wow, there's narratives, mainstream narratives that are wrong and meant to deceive me. Like, I thought that's what waking up was, back in the day, how before this new woke came about, waking up kind of had this thing to it. Like, I'm waking up to realizing the world is not what I thought it was. And they kind of twisted that and into their own thing, because waking up was almost kind of in the subculture of, you can call it conspiracy theories or whatever, but just that whole kind of thing. That's where it was.
That's what it used to mean. Yeah.
That's what it used to mean. And they took that.
Now it's like, racism, gender inequality, LGBTQ people, and any kind of foolishness you can think of. That's being woke now.
Yeah. You're waking up to how bad things really are. But then, do they know their history? In no way, shape, or form, because this country has been the best it's ever been. The American dream and all that was the best that the world's had to offer, right? And they're trying to destroy it from within. And we can go down the rabbit holes of Marxism and communism and all this stuff, but really it's to destroy something that God made of America. This beacon of freedom. They're trying to take it from us and destroy it. But at the end of the day, whose fault is it, guys?
Ours for not praying.
That's right.
Right.
The thing is, like, these demonic Democrats and people on the left and progressives, they push these agendas. What they do is they redefine the actual words.
Yeah.
And they basically inject, and what they do is they utilize whatever's trending in any moment in time, and they inject through social media, because that's what's mainstream right now, and regular fake news that you see on cable TV, and they inject their propaganda and they spin it as truth, and they redefine everything so that, and it takes time. This is something that takes time. An entire generation becomes poisoned, and then that poison spreads into the next generation, because then children are being raised with parents who have this ideology. They have this level of understanding from this twisted source, and it just continues to spread and get worse. And these demonic Democrats change history, and they do so by tearing down statues of slave owners, for example, things that happened hundreds of years ago, and they pick one negative aspect of that time frame that that particular person or event might have harbored at one point in time, and they completely neglect anything positive that has ever come out of that person in history or that situation. It's disgusting.
It's just really the final stage of this whole social engineering thing that's been going on since the 60s, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've got people believing good is bad and bad is good and up is down and down is up. It's completely and totally backwards. And a major portion of the country is buying into it.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and a big part that we kind of want to touch on today's episode is the whole kind of issue that it's trying to get a whole people group, our beloved Black brothers and sisters, is trying to steer them in this narrative, is trying to fill them with offense and cut them off of the land of the living, of life, right? And so this kind of started. So God laid on our pastor's heart, his heart for Black people. And I believe there was she was watching a video of a praise and worship singer. He went to a prison and he was playing some, praise and worship music. And then God fell on our pastor and she started weeping and she was feeling the Father's heart for Black people. And God was pretty much sharing with her that, he wants to reach his Black people, how the enemy has come in like a flood to really ruin a lot of people. And he's really targeted the Black people. And this whole agenda uses Black people. So how? Why? Can we figure this out? Well, to get into a little bit of an understanding of Black Lives Matter, they are what? They are a Marxist organization. And Black Lives Matter, that statement, it is the most obvious psyop. It is so manipulative. It is so evil. You're hiding behind something that, of course, matters. Black Lives Matter. Yeah, man. Who doesn't believe that? What's wrong with you?
They target the resentment and anger in the community, and they're just people are ripe to fall into that.
Right.
But really, the reality is it's a bunch of miseducation.
Absolutely.
It's a miseducation on the Black people's side because there's a refusal for them to understand that Alan Farkas, Brett Connell, Aaron Betts had nothing to do with slavery.
Right.
You just didn't. And if
Right.
your ancestors did, you three personally had nothing to do with slavery.
Right.
But I'm going to hold all three of you guys accountable because somewhere 150 years ago,
Right.
one of your ancestors was a slaveholder.
And you better write a check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not right. They even go so far as to tie this to, well, the Jewish people get to talk about what happened to them in the past. And no one's telling you to not talk about what happened.
Right.
No one's telling you to hide the history. What we're telling you is acknowledge it, learn from it, and move on.
Right.
But this is not what's going on. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
They pick and choose what they decide to call history in the schools. There's barely a shred of truth in it to begin
It's changed. It's completely changed on purpose, just like we were talking earlier about the language. Words do not mean things anymore.
Right.
It's a concept, and it depends upon who you're talking to. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but this is one of the most irritating phrases in words. It's something called a John. And you say John is left on the John, over there by the John, down by the John. What are you talking about?
The John.
And if you listen at these people when they're talking and describing this, they know what they're saying. But anyone outside of that slang, ebonics, hip hop terminology, I don't know what it is. I have no idea what a John is. But it's crazy that instead of using the word, hey, I'm going to walk down the street, I'm going to pick up some tacos, I'm going to eat the tacos, and I'm going to go home. No, I'm going to go to the John, down by the John, and pick up the John, and then go to that John there. What does that mean?
Right. These tacos are bussin', no cap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just speak
Listen,
English.
all it is division in its finest.
Yes.
The enemy's plan has always been to divide and conquer. And you know what? If you're just say down south in the 50s or 60s and you're living in a neighborhood and nobody has any money, there's no black or white. It's just poor.
Absolutely.
Okay? That you're just poor and nobody cares about black or white.
Absolutely.
I have never, and to this day, I don't understand it, which is why I know it's a demonic construct. That because of a different color of a skin, somebody is a different human being, and you have to look at them differently. I swear, I know where it comes from, but I never understand how everybody bought that.
Nope.
Right.
My father and uncle were concentration camp survivors. My first best friend was a guy named Alan Malcolm, little kid, lived in the neighborhood. We were great friends. I brought him home one day, and my father acted in a bad way towards him. And
Wow.
I couldn't understand it. This is a guy who lost his whole family because he was Jewish.
Wow.
Right? And I literally didn't understand it. And I asked my uncle, I said, what the heck just happened here? My uncle tore into my dad over it, and that was my first real introduction to racism. And I felt horrible that I had to watch this kid be treated like this. He was my brother. He's my best friend. It's something I never, ever got over. I've just never gotten over it.
And something like that, I feel like is reverse racism. But instead of us learning from it and growing, I'm gonna say this about Black people. We feel it's our right. I don't feel this way. They feel it's their right to hold a grudge,
right,
forever and never forgive. And one of the things that it used to irritate me about the prayer movement is that we need to go back and apologize to the Indians. We need to apologize to the Chinese. We need to apologize to the Black people.
Obama, remember, he went around and started apologizing for the United States.
Well, yeah, but year after year, the apostolic prayer movements, I don't want you to apologize to me for what you didn't do. You had no part in. It was cool the first time, but after the 20th and the 30th time, I was like, look, I've already forgiven you. I'm not holding on to this anymore.
Well, it keeps people blaming and in a victim mode, which is where they want them.
Yep.
Exactly. And it's like, so, you've moved on, right? But if it keeps getting brought to you, that's a temptation to go all the way back, to go all the way around, to lose all the forgiveness that you're walking in.
Absolutely.
But racism was going away. We were naturally growing out of it. I mean, look at just, I can look at my life, and Brett, I know you can kind of look at your life. Like, we can compare, where our parents were maybe, and Alan, like with civil rights stuff and all that upheaval. It was bad, but then it was getting better and better and better. And we were growing out of it. But then Obama came back in and really started stirring it all kind of up.
Absolutely.
We were naturally growing out of it, so I don't know if you guys know too much about critical race theory, but critical race theory is a form of critical theory, and critical theory is a tactic from the Marxists and the communists to look at a matter and pick away at it and not let it drop, to not focus on anything good about a matter. This is what they believe, to not focus about anything good at all about a matter, but only the negative. And you keep harping on the negative and harping on the negative. And then hopefully when you harp on it enough and you wake people up enough, it'll resolve itself. That is literally their logic. I've really been studying communists and Marxists and what they do. But this critical race theory is in all the kids now. So we were naturally growing out of it. But now a way that they teach kids is literally to look at the negative and to shove it in your face and look at it over and over and over again and get it embedded in you. And, how is that moving forward?
They're completely and totally indoctrinated.
It's not,
Yeah.
and I think Reverend Allen said it earlier when he said it's just bringing up division. I have always looked at racism in any form as the spirit of division.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
That's what it is. It's a spirit of division.
it does
It's a
not want us to be
it's a
united.
principality, and it works throughout the entire world because there's a whole homicidal. How would I even say that? There's
You
been a
said it right.
genocide perpetrated on every race on this planet by somebody else.
But to me, Alan, the biggest cover up is the homicide and the genocide against the Jewish people. That has been downplayed, made to be nothing. And even if you look at what's going on in the black community today, there is a hatred or a racism against the Jewish people from the black community,
Right.
which makes absolutely no sense. And
No.
I know, and I know we all know prophetically, the whole entire world is supposed to hate the Jewish people.
Right.
But
And
the
that
stuff
spirit's
that's-
been unleashed for sure.
It has. And this stuff that's going on with wokeism, critical race theory,
Right.
it's a distraction to keep us off of the real people that we should be holding up before the Lord. God
Right.
told the Jewish people, Abraham, hey, you're my chosen people. That's it. You know, we didn't get chose. If it wasn't for that relationship between Abraham and God, none of us would be able to have a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ that we know today. So
Absolutely.
we have to look at this prophetically and see, you know, it's the whole spirit of division for the entire world. The
Right.
entire world is being set up to hate the Jews, to come against the Jews, and this little bickering back and forth with the black and the white,
Right.
and the Indians and the
Right.
whatever the other colors are. It's all, to me, it's always been tied to the spirit of division, and then
Absolutely.
unforgiveness underneath of it. Because if I can't forgive you as a black person for you being white, I'm not going to heaven.
Yeah.
And
See,
I don't care what anybody
that's
says.
what I mean. Even a discussion about something that has to be between us because of different colors is insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a difference between discussing it and acknowledging, hey, this was history, this happened, these people were enslaved. But you know,
they don't even teach the truth about that.
No, because the black people were enslaving other black people.
Absolutely. They were sold off the west coast of Africa by their different tribes.
Yes. They don't want to talk about that.
No, they don't want to talk about
up.
that. And actually, it's recorded that the first person that owned slaves on the American continent was a black person. Nobody wants to know that either. They're probably throwing stuff at me now, but I don't care. I mean, that's even just the smallest amount of truth.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
the enemy's done a good job. You got to admit it. He's tore completely everything to shreds.
Yeah. And remember, God spoke through Pastor Barbara however many years ago, saying that there was going to be a war between the blacks and the whites.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And here it is.
Well, you know, listen,
that.
Other people have been saying it too. You go back to Charles Manson. He was saying it too, but he was involved in the Process Church.
Right.
Okay. He was indoctrinated. That guy was an MK Ultra mind control slave. They've been saying that's coming, and they're gonna promote that for sure. But that to me is going to be only one aspect of this whole Black Awakening comes where the enemy says, okay, ready now. And there's going to be chaos unleashed at one time that the world has never seen to this point, because they figure there's close to, I don't know, at least in the tens of millions of multiple programmed MK Ultra assassins. And that information comes from Russ Dizdar, who did a lot of work with people that were coming out of that God saved, those super soldier programs.
Can
and that's
can
just
you
one
explain
aspect.
that a little bit, Alan, so everybody knows?
Well, there was a deliverance man. His name's Russ Dizdar. He still is one of the best websites as far as information I've ever seen in my life. And he was working in the Pennsylvania area. And he would get people that would come to him that were multi-generational MK Ultra controlled assassins, literally super soldiers. And all this stuff you can look up. And he said that these people would say this to him. He'd say, well, you know how you teach your children, you know, they go to religious school and they go to, you know, if they're Catholics, they go through a confirmation, and you guys go to church and you look forward to these different holidays. He said, that's not how we grow up. When we grow up, we learn spell casting, we learn witchcraft, we learn druidic magic. We are tested to see what part of society that we're going to fit in, whether it be a super soldier, a politician. People do not understand the level of control that's draped over this planet. They see a little bit of truth here and a little bit of truth there, and they try to wriggle truth out of what's thrown at them, vomited out at them from the mainstream news, and they think they know something. They know nothing. The blanket of disinformation that the enemy has laid over this planet is absolutely and totally complete. So, anyways, God would save people.
Hold that thought. So yeah. I 100% agree, because in to the degree that we're divided, again, going back to the division, you have a piece, I have a piece, Aaron has a piece, Brett has a piece, and because we don't put them together, we're not seeing the whole big picture. So everything that you just said, Alan, people look at you and say, oh, he's crazy, he don't know what he's talking about. But if you would listen to each piece that we had and put it together, you could see that the devil is a mastermind at doing what he's doing. He's bringing us together for the Antichrist spirit, tying everything together. In all of these people, you know, we got the Antifa groups, we got the KKK, we got the Black Panthers. All of these groups are working separately, but really they're working together, because they're under the umbrella of the Antichrist spirit. They're under the umbrella of the devil. But we refuse to see it because, we can't associate with Alan.
Listen, do you know how many, there's so many frying pans in the fire. It's impossible to connect all the dots. I spent most of my life trying to do it. Okay. There's so many things that are going on, and that's an Antichrist spirit is guiding everything. Okay. But the point is, back to these multiples. So God would, from Russ Dizdar, and all this stuff can be looked up. There's a book called The Black Awakening, where he goes into all these different stories about these MK Ultra programmed assassins. And what happens is God saves them. And they actually tell of their life, and they say, you know, you guys are waiting for the second coming. We're waiting for the Black Awakening. And the thing is, the enemy knows that trauma makes people's minds suggestive. So I've always believed that it's going to be, the cities are going to go up. There's going to be shootings everywhere. China and Taiwan, the Middle East is going to blow up, Pakistan and Iran. I mean, all of this overnight. And then my brother Brett, then they're going to fake the alien invasion. And by that point, they will be so ready for someone to come save us. They're going to accept it. And then AI is going to be in there. It's a big mess that's coming. It's huge mess.
Did you see the video of the alien crash landing in that suburban neighborhood?
In Texas, was it?
Yeah.
And do you know how many of those I've never seen? I see more of that stuff in a week than I've seen in 10 years. They've actually come out and said, yes, there's aliens. I'm talking about the government. Yes, there's aliens. We have crafts.
Told you it was going to be a good one.
We've been meeting with them. Eisenhower made a deal. Everybody's made a deal, and they're all dug in, and they're coming up because there's a great awakening come. They're putting up everything that everyone, people have been killed for saying this, and it's out in the government. They're saying it right out of their lying lips. They're coming right out and saying all this stuff now. It's insanity.
And this time, the cop with the body cam footage, he was
Yeah.
going around asking the neighbors, and he straight up said, look, guys,
Right.
normally I would just go right back in my car and go back to the station, but only because my partner said he saw aliens am I going
Yeah.
around asking you guys if you've seen anything.
Right.
And then they had the video footage of these two large aliens about 10 or 11 feet tall with the glowing eye type thing. They were sitting in the
Right.
tractor, and you
Yep.
could see them in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was at night and it was kind of hard to see, but you know, I
What
saw a
happens
video.
when
where-
what happens when a ship over every major city in the world happens?
Yeah,
20-foot long ships. I promise you, it's coming.
it's almost
those
Independence
things
Day.
Yeah, and those things start coming out. What
Yeah.
then?
Right.
There's more cryptid videos. There's more demonic sightings. And
But-
we have the Holy Spirit, so we know what's right and wrong, because there's a bunch of baloney out there, but there's a bunch of truth too.
There
Yeah.
is.
And the veil
we
is
all
thinning.
we've got to start learning to put the pieces together. We've
Right.
got to start learning to stop dismissing Alan, stop dismissing Brett, and,
Yeah.
and say, okay, there has to be some truth in there, because not everybody would just come up with this on their own.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I was having a discussion with somebody today, and they were talking about the spirits. When they were a young child, they would see demonic spirits. I
Yeah.
said, the problem with that is the church doesn't teach about discernment.
Right.
When you
Right.
have
Right.
discernment, you see both the good angels and the bad angels.
Right.
But because nobody in the church knew this, they couldn't talk to this person and explain to them, this is a gift from the Holy Spirit for you to be able to see it. You're not a
Right.
witch. You're not into witchcraft. This is something that God has given you that needs to be refined,
Cultivated.
cultivated under the Holy Spirit, so that your gifting can come forth. Because what a powerful gift to have, to be
Right.
able to have the gift of discernment, to know,
Right.
hey, there's a big demon that just walked in the door. We need
Yep.
to intercede and
I
break
see that
thing
stuff.
down. Yes,
I
Yeah.
see that shadow people. I see that stuff all the time.
we need that gift in the body of Christ today in order to be able to combat the stuff that's going on. You know,
And the stuff that's coming.
That's coming.
There's a verse in Isaiah that says, "Open ye the gates, send my Nephilim, my giants in." Okay.
Yes.
And then you tie that in with the verse that says, "Men's hearts are going to fail for fear for those things that are coming up on the world."
yeah,
That's in
Everybody
the
thinks those
Septuagint,
UFOs. Everybody thinks those UFOs are coming from space, which they can't. We live in a closed system. They're coming up from under the earth.
hey, look at all these different places where the earthquakes are going on and the ground's opened up. What do you
Africa's
think's
split
coming
in
out
half.
of the ground?
Yes.
Yep.
The underground tunnel systems, man, they can build an underground base. It's like a mile under the earth now, like 30 days.
Yeah,
Yeah. They
It's
actually
ridiculous.
they vitrify the rock. It actually melts.
Yeah. And if you notice, look at every major military base. Wherever there's a large military base, within a mile, there's a Walmart distribution center. I'm not kidding.
Right.
Look it up. It's like,
Right. Right.
Every
That's
time
another
without
thing
fail.
too. If you overlay all the places where there's a concentration of missing people and overlay that over all the known underground bases, they all line up.
there's been so many cases of, human trafficking systems busted, and they were saving people, and it's all from underground, and they
Right.
go into abandoned buildings and they have tunnels under there. But
Yeah.
my point in saying the Walmart distribution center is because there has been documented a senator, and I forget what state it was, but a senator from that state went to a closed down Walmart distribution
Yeah, they wouldn't let
center.
him in.
They wouldn't let him in because it was like private security, like mercenaries
Right.
that are armed, and they're standing there. Nope, sorry, you can't come in. It's like,
Right.
what?
They're part of the whole FEMA camp thing. I always have been.
Yeah, but it's like, what are you doing in a supposedly abandoned Walmart distribution center? Why are you ordering all those body bags?
Yeah, right. Well,
It's like-
you've seen those where they've been closing them down all across the country for 6
Yeah.
months to fix plumbing issues.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
Come
Yeah,
on. But back to that underground business. If anybody wants to get deeper in that, there's a guy named Phil Schneider who paid with his life for telling the truth. He was an engineer, brilliant, off the chart IQ guy that used to dig these underground bases. And he actually dug into one and dug down into an old existing one.
Wow.
Not an underground base, but old existing tunnels, and fought reptilian beings.
Really?
Wow.
And this guy literally has proof. He has all kinds of different things. They killed him, but that's a fascinating thing. Everybody, it's another thing. People make fun of this whole reptile thing. Every single culture on the planet has drawings and carvings in rock and history about, especially Native Americans, reptiles coming up from underneath the ground and giving them, information, or they came from under the ground.
Right.
There's literally thousands of stories that tell the same thing. But you can't say reptilians because you're nuts then,
Right. Well, it's Satan has so many different tactics and
Right.
strategies employed with aliens, reptilians, and whatever
Right.
else he can come up with to distract the people, to
Right.
cause fear, to cause instability.
Right.
Mass hysteria and panic and all this stuff. It's that divide and conquer strategy that we were all
Right.
talking about earlier.
Trauma.
Yeah, and this is how he separates and divides people. Then you
Right.
have people groups fighting each other. No, it's the reptilians, and the other groups like, no,
Right.
it's the aliens. And then it's like you're taking
Right,
two
and then-
strategies of Satan.
Right. And then what he does is he has people out there mocking the truth.
Yes,
Okay.
you're evil if you believe.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I remember being called crazy because I believed a bunch of secret men that had all the money in the world met together, called the Bilderbergs. Back then, if you'd say that, you were crazy. I was crazy back then. Now they have a website, man.
Explaining everything.
Yeah. It's
But
out
this
in
is
the
the
open
thing.
now.
This is why it's important that we have this show, because these things need to be brought out. They need to be synthesized, boiled down,
Right.
so that the body of Christ can learn from a trusted, reliable source, and then we can take that information and then share it with everybody else, so we all are on the same page.
Right.
God has prophetic people. He also has people who study history. They study different things that go on throughout, the entire earth, so that we can put these things together and make sense of what's really going on.
Amen.
And God is speaking to us, but are we recognizing? Are
Right.
we taking it to heart? Are we just ignoring the different signs?
Right. Well, the thing. Go ahead, Brett.
No, I was just going to say, I just want to give an example here. If I could just share my screen with you guys and show y'all what I'm talking about with
Okay.
these demonic leftists. This is what they do. Let me share my screen here. So I don't know if this takes a minute. Okay, here we go. I typed in George Floyd overdose
Yeah.
because the truth is this guy had drugs in his system.
Oh,
Right.
don't
When
talk
he-
about that. You can't say that.
I know. Right?
Yeah. They're
And you're
believe
right.
me. They're coming with the pitchforks.
Yeah, and the torches, yep, and whatever else they got going on. But it's crazy because look, you type that in Google, the first couple of results are literally fact checked by AP News. It doesn't say any of this.
Yeah.
Experts.
Fact checked by the liars.
Yeah,
Can you make your screen bigger, Brett?
Let me there you go.
Oh, yeah. Thank
Yeah, see, this has been fact checked by AP News and it's false. Experts, George Floyd died from knee to neck, not drugs. And then this other fact check thing, no evidence of drug overdose and all this stuff. But so that's the result. Anybody that's wanting to learn or just to genuinely investigate something, they're immediately bombarded from Google, which pretty much everybody goes to for the most part, right out of the gate. False,
Yeah.
false, false, false. But then, and here's the crazy part, if I can get to this little bar is up in my way here. Let me find it here. Go to this tab. Okay, so here's the CNN website, right? We got CNN up here. If you scroll down here, in big bold letters, it says asphyxia, low oxygen, was primary mechanism for George Floyd's death. But underneath that, read this. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner's official autopsy made no mention of asphyxiation as a cause of death, which has been a key pillar of the prosecutor's case. In contrast, an independent autopsy commissioned by Floyd's family said he died of asphyxiation from sustained pressure. The legit, real-time, actual medical autopsy showed that he had drugs in his system, which may have contributed to his death. But
Yes.
that wouldn't go along with the narrative. So what they did was they paid another expert, to
No
do
kidding.
another autopsy, a private, autopsy. Oh yeah, definitely. It was the cop. It was the white cop's fault. And it's like, what the heck? This is how they play the game.
Yes.
They straight up
There's-
take bribe money. They lie. Google will fuel the narrative. Oh, it's all false. It's all fact checked. No, that's
When
not how it
I
works.
tell you there's a web of disinformation that's over the entire planet. That's
Yes.
exactly what it is. But this is
Yeah.
a pattern that happens over and over again. A story will happen. They will come out and somehow know everything about it in an hour, right? And everybody picks that storyline up, and then you got to go back because it's always starts to unravel. Always.
Right.
They always say that the first accounts are never accurate,
Right.
but the news reporters make sure that they get that first accounting,
Yeah.
and then the truth comes out. And we're all familiar with the Sandy Hook, what was the shooting?
All of them.
Yeah, and they went in there, and so many different stories came out of that. But what was the truth?
Well, you know what they all had in common? They were all on psychotropic drugs. Their parents were all in the military or the intelligence agencies, and they were all groomed for this.
Yep. So we
That's
we
the
have
bottom line with all these shooters.
we have a responsibility as citizens to seek out and to know the truth.
Right.
And
Yes.
that is not from the 6 major news networks of CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, ABC, CBS.
They're completely taken over by the enemy.
They all are. And they all are. But to the degree that they are, I'll say the black people that I know refuse to stop listening to it.
Right. Well,
I know
they don't
somebody
call it-
right
they don't call it
now-
programming for nothing.
You
It
you got-
literally, TV literally changes your brainwave to I think it's an alpha brain. It makes you suggestible. It
yeah.
makes you, it's literally a thing that the enemy has literally hacked the brain.
Are you guys familiar with the Mueller report?
Yeah. Here
Are
we
you
go.
familiar with the fact that they have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that that whole thing was false?
Absolutely.
I know someone who is African American, black, whatever you want to call it, who every time we get to talking about President Trump, he brings this Mueller report up and says that all of the documentation that they did proved that he colluded with the Russians.
You see,
To this
this
day,
is why,
just
this
this
is
last
why-
week, and he refuses to believe.
no, listen, this is why the truth doesn't matter. I've been trying to tell people the truth about things my whole life. It doesn't matter. Do you know what matters? It's like children.
How you feel.
Children, huh?
How you feel matters.
No, but see,
Right.
this is the point. It's like, that's why judgment is the only thing that's going to work as far as breaking people down. It's like little kids. Everybody says, oh, little kids are so beautiful. They're so innocent. They don't lie. Yeah, they lie. The only time they tell the truth is when they're in pain.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the same principle. It's going to take judgment to really wake people up.
Yeah.
There's a minority of people that have been woken up to some degree, but not to the degree that they need to be woken up to.
But Alan, the church does not want to deliver that message.
Oh,
Right.
I'll deliver
It
it.
does. It doesn't want to deliver that message because it doesn't put butts in seats. It
Right.
doesn't put money in the offering.
Well, we know God's going to deal with that. He's
Yeah.
unleashing an army of people that care less about that.
But look at what's going on in the church now. God has recently said he is judging the remnant.
Right.
Did you ever think that that would be possible? Did you ever think that that would need to be done? The remnant, you know, the remnant is supposed to be people who understand the full truth, the full gospel, and are like right in line with God. No, not today. The remnant is out here doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, out here
Well,
teaching things that they shouldn't be doing, out here
right.
restricting the voice of God. If a prophet
Right.
were to jump up in some of these remnant churches today and start saying, I'm judging America, I'm going to destroy America, they would be escorted out of the building.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what is God in the business of? And that is refining. So why should it surprise us?
It surprises me, and I guess because I'm an idealistic person, and this is probably a fault
Oh,
of mine.
that's a good way to get hurt, brother.
Yeah. I feel like everybody should be doing their best at what they do. I feel like the
Right.
church should be doing things better,
Right.
but they're not.
Well, that's a lesson you eventually learn in life. People
Yeah.
do not believe the way you do, and
Yeah.
they will not respond the way you do. That's just a recipe for disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but we're supposed to have the message to people
Right.
who are lost so that they know exactly where to go. And I point this out all the time. What happened after 9/11? Church is filled to the brim, to capacity. Hey, what's going on? What's God saying? God is saying he loves us and he
Yeah.
didn't send this to us.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he didn't send this? He didn't cause this? Okay, I'm going back out in the world and do my thing.
Right.
Right.
We missed an
Well,
opportunity.
nothing really changed.
Yeah.
So they
Because
went
our
back to their
message
lives.
didn't change. We didn't tell the
What?
people the truth that God is judging America.
Right.
We and
It's
this
not
is
going to
why
set
we
in. It's not going to set in till judgment falls.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been fallen, but I mean in such a way where it touches everybody.
Yeah, where there's no doubt in the good Christian remnant people who are sitting there holier than thou,
Right.
kumbaya, and they got
Yeah.
the hums and
I
harps.
feel like throwing up.
Yeah, it does. It makes you want to throw up. When
Yeah.
they start getting touched and they start saying, "Dad, God wants us to suffer," something's wrong.
Yeah, but even the most hardened atheist knows that we only grow through difficulty.
Yeah,
So why the church can't grasp that when it's even in the word is another thing I will never understand.
yeah.
Well, the culture and it's in all the companies now. It's in everything, but the idea of this whole idea of a utopia on earth, and I'm going to do a hard segue here, but this whole idea of a utopia on earth is what is the end goal of Marxism. It's the end goal of communism. So all the suffering, all this, the reality of life, it goes by the wayside. And this whole idea of we can create a utopia together, but we're living in a fallen world, folks. But this is the narrative that's in a lot of people. But so the victimized Black people, it's like they want payback now. They want payback. Slavery happened, and now they want everything for free now. And the welfare state and all this stuff that's been weaponized, I view it as being weaponized against Black people. This is a whole false way of living. God never meant this to be our life, and you see the enemy in his far-reaching grasp really trying to destroy a whole group of people. And
Everybody.
it's a fake reality that they're trying to plug us into.
It is, but and I'm not discounting anything you said, Aaron. Right now, there's the bigger attack is on white males.
Right.
The bigger attack is on white males and
Whiteness in general.
yeah, but they're trying to portray white males as angry, Trump loving, gun toting, the supporters of the Constitution, and we have to attack them because as soon as we get rid of them, we can do what we want with this country.
Well, you know,
They're
they've
standing
passed
in our
laws.
way.
They've passed laws since 9/11, starting with the Patriot Act, that labels everybody that I'm looking at right now as a terrorist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on all their lists.
this is the war that we're fighting right now.
Yeah.
Right.
The
Right.
war against white males. They're trying to make you look crazy. They're trying to make you look like you're psychopathic.
Right. And to feel guilty for having being born into a privileged kind of situation.
But you're not. You're not. And the lie that has been told about that is so huge.
Yep.
Like you were saying earlier, Alan, there are more poor white people in the entire United States than there
Right.
are poor blacks.
Right. And when those people live together as children and come up, there's no black or white. There's just
No.
poor.
No.
I think Ralphie May did a funny thing about that.
Who?
Ralphie May is a comedian. He's a real
Oh.
big guy. He's just,
Oh yeah.
He's funny, man. He's funny. But I remember him doing that. I remember him saying that. I grew up in the South. I'm South as it comes. There was no black and white, you know. It's a fiction.
Yeah, can I show you guys a clip? It's a black guy that just explains the reparations really well.
Okay.
And he's on Dr. Phil doing it. So it's really good.
I know what
Yeah.
you're gonna play.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah. This is funny.
Smile, Aaron.
All right, let me make sure we can hear this here. All right, here we go.
Yeah. I saw that. You're gonna have to start it over and put the volume on it.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Okay,
white-
I know what to do. I'll unplug my headphones. Okay, I'll start it over. Here we go.
Yeah, start over. This is really good.
About 3,700 free blacks who own 12,000 slaves, black slaves. The question is, do the descendants of those free blacks who own black slaves, do they pay? Blacks really benefited more the first 100 years after slavery than we have in the last 50 years. I was born in 1937 during the Depression. Everyone in my small, low-income black community, 98% of the households had a man and a woman raising children. Elderly
Right. That's the
walk safely in that community without fear of being assaulted by their grandchildren. Never heard of gunfire during that time. Never heard of a child being shot to death in the crib. But there are 50 children today who have been shot and killed in our cities. You're talking about remedies. We've got to look beyond saying that every solution has to have a winner and a loser. That blacks can only benefit if whites lose. We have to be defined more than just victims of oppression.
There it is.
Yep. That whole interview is really good.
Yeah, that's
You know what? And I'm inclined to believe there's more people than like this man that are as opposed to more people that have bought into this whole baloney.
Well, where did this baloney come from? Right? I'm going to keep going back to Marxism because this is what the deal is. But with Marxism, you need two ingredients. You need an oppressor to put all the blame on, and you need an oppressed class. And the black man they're trying to fit him and indoctrinate him to make him feel like he's oppressed. And the oppressor, the white man, why is he the oppressor? Because this is what they want to destroy. America is like statistically 70% white. And I think it's only 13% black, right? And we see, and I hate almost having to talk in these terms, but they're bringing it up. But so anyway, if you want to destroy the culture, which is 70% white, Well, let's make them the bad guy. And this group right here that has been victimized, let's keep them tormented, let's keep them offended, and let's use them. But so when you kind of do the backstory of Marxism and where it came from, it was the whole idea of the owners, the business owners, and the administrative class and the lower workers. It incentivized the lower workers to want to topple their managers and their bosses and the landowners, right? So it put all kind of like the hammer and sickle. The hammer and sickle are working tools. That's where we get the hammer and sickle from. It was the working class, the lower working class. So it's like, so the Marxism thing was all based around the workers and then the managers or the company owners that needed to be overthrown. Well, in the 1960s, the Marxists at the time said, well, hey, the workers are actually doing pretty good. Capitalism helped out the workers pretty good now. It's actually made them strong. It's made them independent. We have to go back to the drawing board. We need a new working class. And in their writings, the new working class became Black people. It became other minorities. It became women, and it became gay people and all that stuff. In their writings, that's where it came from. So where can we trace this up to now? These writings were done by a dude named Henry Marcuse, who's kind of like the second Marx. Where does Henry Marcuse fit in with what we're looking at right now? Henry Marcuse mentored a woman named Angela Davis. Angela Davis is the direct mentor to Alicia Garza and Patricia Kohlers, who are the founders of Black Lives Matter. So Black Lives Matter, which invaded culture, Black Lives Matter, which I shared this story on last one, Vivek Ramaswamy, who had $1 billion industry. His board came to him and said, you need to put a black square on your profile. The black square is symbolic of Black Lives Matter. So the highest reaches of sports, the highest reaches of government, the highest reaches of society, Black Lives Matter was the standard now. We have to bow down to this thing. Well, Black Lives Matter is traced back easily to this whole Marxist agenda, which wants to destroy America. So the working class can't be the oppressed now because capitalism made them prosperous. We need a new oppression, folks. Where are we going to look? The Black people. So this whole idea of creating an oppressed and keeping an oppressed people has been doing this thing this whole time. And the victimization of Black people has been not to, to victimize them, but to turn them into something that can be used to victimize other people, to victimize white people and whatever. It's trying to make them an offended weapon that an agenda can work through to destroy America.
And I agree 100% out, Aaron, because Black people are some of the most offended people in the world. Everything in the world offends them. I can't believe that you have the rebel flag.
That's a spirit. That's a spirit also.
Yeah. It's all back to unforgiveness. It's all back to the spirit of division. But right. The Marxism thing, I'm so glad that you're bringing this out because it also ties to the genocide. If you going further back, you go to Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger started with, we're going to do abortions on Black people because we're going to get rid of all of them.
She was a eugenicist.
Yeah.
Eugenics is the word I was looking for. Thank you, Alan. They wanted to purify the race. They wanted to purify the entire world. So you got Margaret Sanger here in the United States.
The enemy has 1,000 different labels. Go ahead.
Yes. You got Margaret Sanger, United States. You got Hitler in Germany. He's trying to purify and do eugenics over there in Germany. So
they're all eugenicists.
Spirit.
Yep.
But how many people can you tell, hey, look at this information that I have for you? I wrote a book in 2016 about Obama and the elections. People looked at that book and said, "Nah, you don't know what you're talking about."
It was a good book, actually.
Yeah,
but it's documented proof of
right.
what they're
Proof doesn't
doing.
matter.
Yeah.
Proof doesn't matter.
And
There
no
is
matter
such
what
a thing as cognitive dissonance, and it is real.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
It is. So the ploy and the traps are there, but because people are refusing to learn, they're refusing to hear the truth. Whose fault is it? It's, to me, it's the black people's fault for refusing to hear the truth. Now, not all black people do this, but there are some black people who refuse to hear what the truth is. I don't want to hear it because my mom didn't hear that, my grandmom didn't hear that, my great grandmom didn't hear that, and on and on and on with the excuses. It's not good. It's keeping us in a state of complete poverty. In generation after generation after generation of African American black people are in poverty because of offense.
Right. And the thing is, the enemy knows that he can get an entire race through generational curses.
Yep.
It's just that simple.
And but culture and media tries to keep black people, like, they are victimized in the sense that the mind control is heavy. The mind control is so heavy. All their entertainers are like LeBron James is saying black people are hunted. Black people are hunted. You know, so
this goes because black people are already in agreement with it. If
Right.
they weren't in agreement with it, you couldn't get them.
That's why I always say you have to understand there's not one shred of truth going out that's being put out.
No.
It is a literal mind control over the entire world.
Yep.
Doesn't it say is this the man that deceived the whole world?
Yeah.
In the
For
word?
real. For real.
He deceives the whole world. He
For
just
real.
does it in 1,000 different ways, and then 1,000 more ways within that.
For real.
Yeah.
It's a rat's nest of cord and deception. And Christ said in the very beginning, the first thing he told me, he said, "Do not be deceived."
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's all deception. Even the truth they put out is deception because it's meant to push you towards a narrative.
And
That's the
that
thing.
narrative starts off with people who have money are evil.
Yep.
So not only, Aaron, are we getting the black people, but we're getting the middle class, we're getting the poor because they're in debt, they're
Right.
indebted, they don't have
And
any
debt-
way of
and
getting out.
Debt is another thing of slavery. And Aaron, all those points that you said were right. They
Absolutely.
were just one finger on a rope that the enemy has used for not only what we're talking about, but for everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the key
It's
is
just one tool.
the hatred of people with money. And
Yeah, right.
you know, when you look at Marxism, it all ties back to redistributing that wealth. We're going to take from the rich and give to the
Yeah, the
poor.
problem with that is that everybody ends up running out of money eventually.
Yes. How do you fund this?
Right.
Look what they did in California. They passed that bill to give reparations for black people that could prove that
Right.
they were affected by slave owners. $1.2 million per person.
Right. It's
And
it's
they
always
said it
California.
wasn't enough.
Right. It's always in California.
We need to pay that into. We need to pay
You
that.
know what? Let's trace our lineage back. I'm sure I got reparations coming from somebody.
Right? Well, I want to tie into what Aaron was saying about the Black Lives Matter group. The co-founder, Patrice Cullors,
Yeah.
she
They stole
straight
the
up,
money.
yeah, she bought 4 high-end homes for
Right.
$3.2 million. And that's
Right.
just in the US, not
Right.
including the homes she bought in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
flying private jets and stuff like that. And then when they questioned her about it, she's like, "Oh, I'm taking the private jets because I'm concerned for my safety." Yeah, I
Right.
bet, because you portrayed the whole thing as, oh, the poor suffering black people in poverty are being
Right.
stolen from all the time. And here she is pocketing all this money from this organization. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Right.
And the George Floyd guy, people don't, either they don't remember or they don't care or whatever. The guy was going into a convenience store with counterfeit money to
Right.
buy a pack of cigarettes.
Once
That's why he
again,
got arrested. The whole
once
thing is a
again,
setup.
it's just a bunch of baloney.
Yep. The guy was breaking the law, had drugs in his system, but somehow he's the saint.
Right. And, but also, listen, it's not to say that there's not prejudice by police against black people,
Right.
Yeah,
or
no.
prejudice against other people.
Yeah.
That's definitely out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like Black Lives,
Definitely.
but like Black Lives Matter, it's like, all right, so you're a company, a corporation, an entity that wants to help Black people. Okay, well, help them.
Liars.
Yeah.
They do the thing that destroys Black people the most. Let me read the mission statement.
That's
Let's
always
start with
how it
Flint, Michigan.
Mission statement of Black Lives Matter. Check this out. And so Patricia Cullors and Alicia Garza are, one of them or both of them are Black lesbians. Just putting that out there. So here's a quote from their modus operandi. Okay, we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure, which is dad, mom, kids.
Yeah.
We disrupt that requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages. That collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. So right there, you see their hatred of the patriarchy, the fathers.
Yes.
They don't even say fathers. So
I just lost everybody. Oh, there you are.
So you get out. So they're going to disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family, the basic setup that God made people to exist in and to have a canopy of protection and order in. They're going to disrupt that to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. That's what they say. So right there's their hatred of that structure, and they don't even say the word father. They say mothers. So the biggest problem in any community would be this being disrupted. You're setting yourself up for failure. Let's look at the biggest problem in the Black community, which is fatherlessness. I'm going to read some statistics. 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes, 5 times the average. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes, 32 times the average. 85% of all children who show behavior disorders come from fatherless homes, 20 times the average. 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes, 14 times the average. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. Why are people joining gangs? Because they want that structure, really. They're crying out to fit into something. So if Black Lives really matter, you want them to live a healthy, protected life. You don't want them to be in gangs. You want them to go to school. But their mission statement destroys people immediately, and and the statistics go on and on of how much it destroys a person to not have a father, and they don't want fathers in the home. They're actually trying to destroy the structure that keeps people safe. So you're telling me Black Lives Matter, and you're trying to destroy the basic foundation of any proper human life?
Anything these lying liars say, it's always the opposite. And I was going to get to this, but you got to it first. Deliverances, we're always looking for the root of everything. The root of all of this is the destruction of the family.
Yes.
All of it.
100%.
Women's lib was one of the greatest destructions of the family, and it was meant so they could get more tax money too, because the other person would be also earning money and having to pay into the corrupt system. Aaron, that's the root of everything.
I was listening at a guy last week, and he was talking about the contributions that men make, and they were talking about single parent families in the Black community, and they were saying he was asking the women, "What are you contributing?" He said, "Well, I'm a single mom, and my kids are, they made it through school." He said, "But your sons are reading on a 4th grade level,
right?
They're not graduating from high school; they're dropping out. and he brought up statistics showing that because of men being in the home, they're twice as more likely to have good grades. They're twice as more likely to finish high school and even go on to college. He said,
Right.
women, you think that you've done something, but you haven't, because you have stepped out of your place in the home. You've assumed a male role and a male responsibility, when that man needs to be back in that home.
Right.
This needs to be fixed. And I'm starting to see that this is one of the major problems right now, in our society as a whole. When these things get out of place, it messes up everything.
It's like I said, it's the root of destruction of all of this. And it was all engineered like this also. It's the same thing with, there was a point in time where you didn't have teenager rebellion.
Now,
That was fomented through the music industry in the 60s.
Right.
That was a definite plan.
we're not going to take it.
There's a guy named John Todd who comes from the Collins Illuminati family. He's very, very high up, sits on the Council of 13, which is literally the only ones above that is the Rothschilds. The only ones above that is Satan himself. And he was the president of Zodiac Records back then, which ran all the famous guys and all the famous and all the concerts. And he said that we take these tapes up into the master room, we pray on them, and we send demons out.
Yeah.
And if the song's about rebellion, it's demons of rebellion.
Yeah.
Demons of my parents are squares.
Yeah.
This was an actual plan by the enemy, and it worked great.
Yes.
Right.
With that whole lie about, women can do everything as good as men can. No, they can't. They're
No,
different.
they can't.
They
Right.
do
Sure
they
can't.
do things that we can't do, and we do things they can't do. So
Absolutely.
why not split that up? Because
Absolutely.
there's great power when that's working together, functioning,
Right.
like Aaron said, properly.
Yes.
It's the root of everything.
But this really started exactly right in the 60s. Everything got split off. Everything started to go. And around that time too, is maybe a little before that, but the welfare system came in.
Yep.
The poverty of Black people before welfare was like, I think maybe 14%.
Yes, it
before
was
welfare ever came out.
It was low.
Now, it has skyrocketed. So what has this whole welfare thing done?
Control.
And so here's something. So we're talking about fatherlessness in the home. So and we're talking about the welfare structure. What happens when a woman gets her man back in the home? They get cut off of their welfare stuff. They're strongly incentivized to be single parents. They get cut their stuff when the man comes back in home. So you have an institution set up to strongly disincentivize a father in the home. And so the big picture of this is, what is this?
They'll teach you to do something good, right?
Yeah. But like I viewed the Black community as the controlling class, we'll call them whoever's controlling the world in the country. They are their project to create a perfect offended dependent. They want them completely dependent on the state.
They've succeeded.
Yeah, the principality that's in charge of that, I'm sure, has won awards.
Sure. But so when you look at, they've purposely dumbed down, they purposefully have offended, they purposefully have made a people, and I do view this as being a victimized people, but it's like, please break out of this, people, see what's going on here. But the whole system, and if you really look into the whole welfare thing, it is so sick. It is so disgusting. So child support now is meant to break a father. Child support goes strongly on the woman's side, and they did all these studies, right? And I've kind of overwhelmed myself with the information, but it's pretty much allowing the woman to pretty much get all the rights, and the father, who's supposed to be the middle of the family, gets nothing, and he gets destroyed. His life gets pretty much ruined. He's back in child support, and it just gets all messed up. And family court is one of the most corrupt things there is. I mean, there's a whole nutshell. But
Aaron, I want to back you up on that, because that was another thing that this guy was talking about. He was saying that when again, going back to the women, the court system is rigged against men.
Absolutely.
It's rigged against men, and I know some
I went
personal.
through it.
No matter what that man did, they, the mother was messed up, but because there's some type of thing in their mindset that a mother can raise a child better than a man,
They'll
they
always
gave
get
the
custody.
yeah, they always gave them custody, and the child was more messed up versus the instances when they were given the custody to the man, and the child thrived, did so much better. But because the court system is messed up, we have a whole bunch of and this is what the guy said. Now I remember. He said that back in the day, if the woman decided to leave, the children stayed with the father. They were the quote unquote property of the father.
Right.
Somehow that's gotten twisted, and the child has become the property of the mother.
Right.
And the effects of it have been damning and detrimental on the health of the family.
Right.
And
Right.
there's your women's lib.
Hey, listen, man, I can back you up 1,000% of that. I was in a situation where the mother was clearly a danger, and they still wanted to give her full custody. I had to, by the grace of God, finagle another way out, but the courts were completely against me.
Yeah. Just
in every
because
way,
you're a
shape,
male.
and form. You know what? Go ahead. Just pick anything that's not corrupted. Welfare when it started out wasn't bad. It was meant to help people. Back then, it took a lot for a man to walk up and get that money. It was
That's
a matter
right.
of pride.
That's right.
And that man would pay that money back,
That's right.
But anything good, the enemy gets into and twists.
And but so there's a documentary called Uncle Tom, which really goes into that. But the welfare thing, it was an insane. Don't look at me like that, Al. The welfare was insane.
I'm okay.
It's what it's called. It's done by Larry Elder, who's a great black man, and it's all focused about black people. But there's also a myth in the whole Uncle Tom thing. I won't go into all that, but definitive proof that the welfare thing destroyed black families. Really did destroy it. It may have started out as some kind of good, but
it put the nail in the coffin of it. That's for sure.
Yes, but they're trying, like I was saying, they're trying to create a dependent class, and then that's what they want, and they'll use this whole class. And I don't want to rope all black people into this, but they're trying to do it. When Biden says if you don't vote Democrat, you ain't black. They rope it in. They make this thing. It's so sick and disgusting. And but that shows how they think they've won. They'll give you everything you need of. You just rely on the government, right, for everything, and they'll fix everything for you, and they'll get everything right. That leads to control. Giving up all your rights, the police state, the slave state, whatever you want to call it, it's baked in the cake. But the depth of people that's in the whole the family court thing, child support thing, the welfare thing, all those were weaponized to destroy the father's home and to destroy black families, to make them like this. And then
baked in the cake. I like that.
Baked in the cake, man. And we could take a step back too. And look, because we know the entertainment industry is controlled. There's an agenda in there. There's an agenda in the government. All these things work together. But who are the role models that black youths get to look at, right?
Unfortunately,
once again, just proves my point. It's all a lie. It's all a deception. It's the Truman Show, for the love of everything.
But like the new Cowboys and Indians, right? Kids used to grow up doing Cowboys and Indians. So the new one is Pimps and Hoes.
Yeah.
I used to play Cowboys and Indians.
Right. So did I, man.
With BB guns.
Yeah. But let's talk about the mainstream entertainer Cardi B. How did she come to fame?
Oh my God.
She was a stripper. And she talks all about it. And It's pornographic lyrics, but she interviewed President Joe Biden, man. That's
Cardi B interviewed Joe Biden.
absolutely.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
Yeah.
Wow.
Cardi B, I'm pulling up to McDonald's to get me something. I'm being bad and getting me some McDonald's. And who's on the screen? It's Cardi B and her boyfriend. And I can get the Cardi B meal, guys.
Thank
Oh
God I
my
never saw that.
God.
Yeah.
Thank God I
That's
never saw that.
stupid.
I can get the Cardi B meal. And I was like, wow. So so it really angers me because I have a love for people, right? We have a love for people, but I see how Black people are being victimized and being used in this agenda. And Black Lives Matter and that whole culture, it's gang friendly, it's stripper Cardi B friendly, it's all these things friendly, but it's anti the father in the home, it's anti the cure. Do we see how evil this is, people? But Black Lives Matter was all over entertainment. It was all over late night television. It was all over the news. It was all over everything. It was
Because you weren't woke.
What do you
unless
expect?
Yeah,
Right.
It's a
you weren't-
psyop. What do you expect?
Right.
But you weren't woke.
That's what they do.
But you weren't woke unless you had Black Lives Matter on
Mhm.
just like the Ukraine flag. All of these
Yep.
people flying the Ukraine flag, they're woke.
The Ukraine flag is an emblem of the Khazarian Empire. Check that out. You know, it's not surprising why Pastor Barbara felt this, because there's so much pain in the Black community.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so
Yeah.
much pain in God's heart because of that pain. And
But it's-
Pastor Barbara is plugged into her heart. So
It's self-inflicted.
yeah, but Chris,
It's
you know
self-inflicted.
as much as anybody, bondage is bondage. And unless it's broken, it's going to continue.
They kept the
Because it's
wounds.
They don't
because
want to
it's a
break
s-
it.
It's a spiritual bondage. Of course they
They
don't
don't-
want to break it.
They don't want
Because
to
they're
break
mind
it. They're in love
controlled.
with
They're,
it.
That's
they're
the
locked
difference,
into
though.
generations of pain.
That's
They're
the
in
difference,
love
though,
with
is-
it.
Yeah, they don't want to be set free from it.
No.
Not all of them, but yeah,
They're-
bondage is bondage, yes. But the difference is when you don't want to be set free from it.
You
'Cause
could
you don't
not
think
want to
you-
be set free from it because of bondage.
They don't think they they don't think that they're doing anything wrong. They really think in their heart of hearts that white people have wronged them and they have a right to carry this into eternity.
Right.
This
Well,
is,
you know
this
what?
is deeper than what we're talking about as far as them refusing to get out of this, because people have went to them. I mean, everybody I shouldn't say everybody. There were a lot of people in the Black community who became very excited about Barack Obama. But how many of them became excited about Alan Keyes? Alan
Right.
Keyes was running for president back in the 80s.
Right.
They didn't vote for him
Right.
Right.
because he was a conservative. He believed in grabbing yourself by the bootstraps and taking care of your own family. They didn't want to hear
Nobody
that.
wants to hear that.
No, they didn't want to
No.
hear that. So,
No,
so
that's-
the different times that Alan Keyes ran, he was made fun of. He was a buffoon. Look at Ben Carson. Ben
Yep.
Carson is a neurosurgeon, brain surgeon.
Right.
They didn't want no parts of him. Oh,
No.
we can't vote for him.
No, he's not part of their system. They're
Right.
not, they don't let people.
Right.
They don't let people in that aren't part of their system.
Yeah,
It's-
not part of
it's-
the club.
It's a
Right.
it's a
Big club, and we're not in it.
it's sad. It's sad, and it's and
It's heartbreaking.
behind the pulpits of Black. I'm about to get myself in serious trouble.
Yeah, we're already in trouble. We
Behind
wake
the
up in
pulpits.
trouble. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Of Black churches, they will double standard themselves to death. We're better than everybody else, and kill Whitey and the whole nine, while saying praise Jesus, all at the same time.
Yep.
They don't want to get out of it, and there have been plenty of opportunities to get out of it, and they're refusing. And this is like someone who has a reprobate mind.
Right.
They see it, they know it. Here's the way that I'm going to walk and be free out of it. Other people have done it. I'm going to talk about them and drag them down instead of, hey, how did you do that? How did you find your way out? And show me what to do. And there's plenty of people that will show them and tell them, but because it goes against their offense, they cannot. This offense thing is real. It is so real. It is so real.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's heartbreaking because they don't want to let the offense go. They feel like they have a right to carry that anger, that hatred, that bitterness against white people who have not done a thing to them.
And the enemy wins
Yes,
once again.
yes. And let's go with the woke thing. They have all of these videos going around right now about uh
Privilege.
white privilege.
Privilege, yeah.
It's not true. It's not true.
I
Stop
agree.
believing it.
Right.
White people stop believing it.
Right.
Stop promoting it. Stop feeling sorry for the black community because of what you're being told about white privilege. It's not true. It's a lie that's keeping the truth from coming to the forefront. And that truth is black people are offended.
Right.
And until they get out of that offense, they're going to stay right where they're at.
Right. And how many videos are they and news clips are they plastering out there about white people crying and they're so sorry. We're
But
so
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yes.
It is our fault. It's a big psyop. The whole thing is.
Yes.
Look at this. I'm going to share this real quick while we're on this topic. Look at this mess.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay.
What's the headline?
Florida middle school teacher is slammed for using black
my
sixth
God.
graders as political props and getting white students to bow down to them.
Yes.
Look, here
All
it
right,
is.
that's it. I'm done.
There it is. The
Yeah.
white
I
kids
think
bowing
I'm
down.
done.
Yeah.
That's the thing that they're doing.
Yes.
And now I'm sorry, but I look at these three black girls sitting in that chair and I feel so bad for them. Look
Yep.
at the look on their faces. They do
Yeah.
not understand what the heck is going on. They're so
No.
uncomfortable to even be
Nope.
sitting there. They're so embarrassed and ashamed.
Yep.
Like, why are you doing this to kids, man?
It's evil.
Yes.
Evil. It's pure evil.
Some
But
adult somewhere said that you can't forgive. And there's a difference between you can't forgive and never forget. And I have always heard
Yeah.
it said that you should never forget what was done by the white man to your race. But that's different from what, and I'm going to use the Jewish people because I have a love for the Jewish people. That's different from never forget what was done so that you can protect yourself, so that you can protect your family, so that you can keep this from happening again. That famous saying of, they came for the Jews and nobody stood up for them. And then they came for the Italians and nobody stood up for them. And then finally they came for me and there was nobody to stand
left.
up. So,
Yeah.
and if we don't stop the mentality that goes on with us being brothers, us being, we have the same blood, we have Jesus Christ in us. And
Right.
I've often said my identity is not black.
Right.
My first identity is Christian.
Absolutely.
And it always will be because my allegiance is to Christ. It's not to my race.
And you'll be called a sellout for that. I'm sure you
Absolutely.
have already.
Absolutely. But I don't care.
Right.
Because that should be our brotherhood. That should be
Right.
what ties us together.
Right.
And I used to make fun of this, but I know there's some truth to it. But the truth is based upon this, how God does things. There's not going to be a black section in heaven and a white section in heaven,
Right.
and a Chinese section in heaven, and you're
Right.
not going to get your ticket of, hey, I'm going over here to the ghetto. No,
Right.
you're all going to be based together by your friends. You're going to be based together by how much you love, and everybody's going to be one big happy family.
Right.
And the reason why I'm kind of hesitant about saying that, because I've heard Perry Stone say different things about some of the kids who were killed, who were aborted from Africa, were in this particular area and they were all together. All of them were black, but it doesn't mean that they were put there because they couldn't
Right.
associate with the white people.
Right.
But you know, the different
That's not a
time
cool thing to
periods.
say.
No,
And
Huh.
then again, it's all in context too. What if that was shown to him in that way, just for that vision, for him to have that knowledge?
yeah, yeah, he wasn't
Yeah.
he wasn't doing it in a racist way,
Right.
but you know, it was something that, you know, something that God had showed him.
Yeah.
But my thing has always been, you know, African American people keep themselves separate from white people because, well, we shouldn't mingle and we shouldn't associate. Why? Why? What are you going to do when you get to heaven? If you
Right.
make it, you're not going to make it with the unforgiveness
Nope.
that you got.
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's true. It's very true. Wow.
I just, it's just pain. There's such a level of pain.
It is.
There is. And
Whether, it was, it's the frog in the boiling pot of water. If you throw him in a boiling pot of water, he jumps out. But if you put him in cold water and turn off the heat just a little bit, he'll stay in there till he's cooked.
Yeah,
And this world is cooked, brother.
it is.
so that perfect analogy, but because this has been a planned out thing,
course it
against the nation, but against the black people. It's like put all the pieces together, put the drug and crack epidemic pieces together to this too, right?
But don't just make it about black people, because there's others. Let's make it Christian versus non-Christian, because if you really boil this down to what's going on, the non-Christians are being sucked into this system because they think that this is what's right.
Right.
You know, the non-Christians are for the wokeness. The non-Christians are for, you know, the separation of the races and keeping everybody at odds and at bay with each other. But the Christians are like, hey, we're all one big happy family.
Some of them.
But I say it's about black people because, like I was saying, because this goes to this whole Marxist thing. They said we lost our working class. They like capitalism. We want to destroy capitalism. We can't use them anymore because they're benefiting. Who can we use now? And they, in their writings, they said we have to go to black people. We have to go to minorities. That was back in the 60s.
Right.
So they said this is who we need to go after now. We need to get them conditioned in a certain way to use them to destroy capitalism. That's what it's all about. Marxism, it's all about destroying capitalism by any means. And the Black Lives Matter people that took over the world, right? Because they were given that platform. Alicia Garza straight up said, we're doing all this to destroy the system completely. We're doing this to destroy. That was their words. So they're using a victimized people to destroy. And and we do need to have that higher perspective, Christopher. But I'm underlining the point that this is a very intentional. Their sights are on black people to use them in this certain way, and the black
They are.
and
You
all
know
that
what,
stuff.
too? In every single city you go through, you got an east side and it's poor blacks. You got a west side, it's poor Latinos. You got a north side, it's poor white people.
Yes.
It's there's different strategies of the enemy against every single last one of them. But every single system, every single city is set up the exact same way. And the drugs are funneled in there. It's not just black people.
No.
Yeah. No. And I should say it's every subcategory of woke. And I'm talking about this dude's writings. This dude wrote this. And
right.
So the degrees of separation are this. It's Henry Marcuse, who wrote this in the 60s. It's Angela Davis, and it's the Black Lives Matter people. They are all connected. It went from here, 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 here. It's all connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not hard to see. So when they were looking for that new working class,
yes,
they said black people and minorities. They said women, and they said gay and bisexual people. Trans wasn't a thing yet. But so you see, that's everything in the woke thing.
So,
and they said, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So they said we need a group to get our agenda through, and that's what it is. And so like we say, it looks pretty on the outside: compassion, mercy, acceptance, understanding. But in the inside, it's all meant, and it's in their writings. And sometimes I just want to, smack people over the head with this. It's literally in their writings,
Won't
in
matter.
their words. We are using this to destroy capitalism.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
using this to destroy.
Everything the enemy has ever done he's always said it first. It's a spiritual law that they have to follow. People that have come out of these multi-generational satanic families say that. We have to tell you what you do, because if you don't fight it, that means you come into an agreement with it.
Yeah.
It's all out there, everything. It's all written.
But it's cool when you find a smoking gun. And I'm sorry, this relationship between Henry Marcuse, Angela Davis, and then the two black.
It's a smoking gun. It's not the smoking gun. It's definitely a smoking gun, though.
Right, for the whole woke agenda. It is because the woke agenda is a Marxist psyop to destroy capitalist America.
It's working.
Yeah,
it's working.
Period. I mean,
yeah, we're in the end game now, as far as what the enemy thinks, because all these different things have gone on all over the world, all over, pockets of the world. The enemy's doing this or that, but not until COVID and not until this whole worldwide vaccination business was there a psyop that was run on the entire world. And that's that they vaccinated 7 billion, 2 billion people are going to die from this.
Yeah. It's still showing itself in
Yep. The wave of deaths that's coming from this hasn't even begun.
Now, and some of the symptoms of the people who've been vaxxed and vaccinated are really starting to show up even more.
Right. Yeah. And listen, they'll crash everything before they have a normal election.
Yeah.
They'll send the aliens in before they give President Trump a chance to sit in the Oval Office again. They will burn down this country. They will nuke cities. I'm telling you.
Yep. If there's martial law, they can't do a presidential election.
Right.
So it is entirely reasonable and feasible, according to this narrative, that they'll just declare martial law before the elections, and then Biden stays president indefinitely.
And then the cities burn, because they're not gonna stand for that.
No.
Yeah, there's chaos coming on a unprecedented level.
Yes.
Not a pocket of chaos, worldwide chaos.
Yep.
Ta-da! The only hope is in God. It really is, because whoever is watching really shouldn't believe a word we're saying either, unless they have the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit confirms it, because there's such a level of baloney that's going on out there. It's impossible to navigate without the mind of Christ.
Yes, absolutely true.
Yeah,
but the good part of that will be, when people realize that God is all they need, you can use the fact that everything's going to be confused, everything's going to be crazy. So, all right, I can't put my faith in anything else but God. So you see the mercy of God in allowing things to play out, because people wouldn't perhaps seek after him.
It's always mercy before judgment. It's a biblical
if there was
pattern.
all these alternatives, right? So God's kind of taking away the alternatives to find peace in anywhere else but him.
He did that to us separately and individually in each one of our walks. I guarantee that.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
You don't have anything. You just have God. That's all you need. That's the greatest lesson that I've ever learned in this whole thing we call the process,
Right. And we would need to remind ourselves that that's an act of God's mercy. Like,
sure was.
Fun. It may look pretty brutal, really, and but it's really
boot camp.
God's mercy.
It's boot camp. It's boot camp for the remnant.
Right, man.
God help us.
But so going back to God's heart that He showed to Pastor Robert about how he's just so upset, and just heard about this people. Why? Because he sees them believing the lies. He sees this whole opposition, this whole kind of scheme of the enemy, right? That's been put in motion against this people. And so we just try to make people aware of the scheme, and hopefully you you can kind of get yourself out of that scheme and see what's really going on throughout the
Yeah,
whole.
white, black, orange, red, purple. Only the love of Christ can pierce through the pain that not only encapsulates and enslaves an entire race and an entire generation, but an individual.
Mm-hmm. But why'd they keep bringing back up it's exactly what you're saying now. They want the people wounded so the enemy can have something to hook onto.
It's all generational.
Yeah. And I really saw this too. I kind of saw in the spirit the whole agenda, in a simple way, but it's like the roots of slavery that holds such a generational spring of hurt, pain, trauma, because it wasn't fun, it wasn't good. But the enemy does not want to lose that. He loved having that. So he's just going to bring it back in any way he can to keep that trauma going. And so, but when Black people come back into agreement with that offense, the enemy has legal right to bring all this right back up and put it in their life again. All this trauma that's been stored up, all this darkness, all these wounds and this demonic currency that he doesn't want to let go of that. So if you agree with the narrative that I should be offended, I should do this, it gets all brought back up and spilled out into the world. It's just more darkness that the enemy can use. And he wants as much room to operate as possible. And people give him the room by believing the lies and by not seeing things for how they really are. But
is there any way to combat this? I mean, realistically?
Well, so there's veils over the hearts.
Individually.
Yeah. God has to remove the veils. But some people do, like if you present this, we can present it from all kind of different ways. But if you do present like the black and white facts of Black Lives Matter and how this is all written, look at history, folks, look what happened here. Some people have caught on, I've heard of Black people that have woken up to this. You have Candace Owens, you have all kind of different African-American people that are voices of reason. So, and they touch some people, but some people need something a lot heavier to touch them.
You know what? Look what Christ is doing to the Muslims. I believe that Jesus can set free the entire Black community. I really do. Just like he can set free the entire Muslim community.
Right.
And there's nothing that's impossible with God, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen.
So one thing is all right, so maybe you can't reason with some of these people because they're so caught up. But what did we just learn on Sunday? It was like through the John Ramirez teachings, he was like, you can only destroy or fight what you can see, right? Right. Oh,
yeah.
So we as a church, and just us guys and whatever, we're bringing things to the light. We're seeing certain things, so that gives us a scope to pray from. We see all these different things. So as a church and people listening that are Christian, you don't have. It doesn't matter what color you are. If you're aware and you can see, as kind of we're seeing, we could effectively pray against it because it's no longer hidden. Because there is a thing to precise, specific targeting of prayers. And really knowing what's going on behind the scenes it's kind of like a level of authority you get to operate in and a jurisdiction you get to step into to break up all this stuff. So, but
right, and back to what you said about a veil, where it talks, the word talks about that they're blinded from receiving the gospel of Christ. We pray the veil be lifted over an entire generation, an entire race. Because it's a spiritual blinding.
Right. And,
so
and
you're right there. Prayer God honors prayer, man.
And in our individual prayer closets, or collectively or whatever, if we don't have those veils, we can pray them off, so it's like the truth that we've been given, it's a weapon, and it gives us access and ability to, in the spirit, to destroy and pray more effectively, So that's a good way to put a bow on that whole understanding.
Yeah. Very good. Well said.
I don't know if I'm just being honest, disgruntled because of, the different things that I see and hear coming out of the Black community. I was really taken aback when I started seeing this trend towards them coming against the Jewish people. and that was kind of like what's really going on here. I've been reading this book by John Hagee. It's called The Final Game of Thrones, and he really outlines how bad the church has been in regards to the Jews, all the way from the very beginning, back to uh, immediately after Jesus was resurrected and ascended to heaven. The early church fathers disassociated themselves with the Jewish people, and I had never heard that before. And John Hagee just broke it down in such a way that it was like, dag, Jesus has only been gone a year, and the Christians are saying that it's bad to be associated with the Jews. And this started over 2,000 years ago. So this anti-Semitism is even in the church.
Right. And that's also based on deception, because it wasn't the Jewish people, it was the Jewish leadership.
Right.
And they weren't really even Jewish, frankly.
Right. But it started a whole mess because it went down from, the Greek Orthodox coming against the Jews to the Catholics coming against the Jews, all the way up to today. Some of these different denominations, they believe that once the Jews messed up, they can never get back right with God. And Romans 11 doesn't say that.
Right. It's more craziness. Also, that what did they say? Let his blood be on our heads.
Yes.
They cursed themselves as an entire nation and people.
Yes, they sure did. They sure did. And when they portrayed that in the Passion of the Christ and they didn't put it in English, I was kind of like, why aren't you letting this truth be known? Because that needs to be said.
Right. Another thing too, I grew up, my father and uncle were concentration camp survivors. I grew up in a Jewish background. I'm going to tell you, there's as much a victim mentality amongst the Jewish people as there are amongst the black people.
Really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look at just the history of since they destroyed Jerusalem. Even before that, everywhere they went, they've been thrown out. They've been accused. They've been slandered in every country they've ever been in, until you finally get up to Germany, where 6 million of them were murdered.
Yeah. Never heard anybody say that, Al.
It was a very deep victim mentality. It's like the line in Fiddler on the Roof. God, could you choose somebody else?
Right?
That's real, man. That's real.
That musical piece lives rent free in my head.
Yeah. Even one last thing, even with my father one time when I was bar mitzvah, man. I went through the whole thing. I learned Hebrew. I can still read and write a little bit of it, but when God saved me back when I was a kid, he looked at me with the deepest pain I've ever seen in his eyes. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, we killed Christ, right?
Wow.
Because he thought now I all of a sudden hated him and every Jewish person on the face of the earth.
He said that to you and really felt that himself.
Yep. That's what he felt. Now everybody hates us because we killed Christ. Now even my son. I mean, I was adopted, but still, the pain in his eyes, I'll never forget that. It was just nuts. It's like, how could you think that? But that mentality is in their culture also, and in their curse.
Jeez.
Yeah, man.
Fascinating.
Brutal. Well, we've scratched the surface, guys.
It's a good scratch.
I think it was.
We'll keep scratching.
Great fun.
Yes.
Great fun. And I can feel the Holy Spirit amongst us.
Yes.
And even though I'm going away, I'll be on the trip on the boat. I have Wi-Fi, so I'm still going to be hooked up.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Sweet. Very good. We're happy for you, man. That sounds great.
Yeah, pirates,
People,
hurricanes.
Right.
Did this thing just automatically shut off at a certain time?
Nope. Did you got more?
Huh?
Do you have more?
No. It just all of a sudden the screen went some kind of way.
No, that's the outro.
That's got to be Chris doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
people who sing.
I forgot the Great Oz is at work over there.
To people.
Thank you for joining us. We will be back in July. For the
Yeah.
World
God
Exposed.
bless everybody.
Leave your comments.
To people who think. People.
Who think? Woohoo!